Bayou Bird is a small project I've been developing for my Intro to Game Engines class. And the whole point of that class is to teach you the three more popular game engines, which is Unity, Godot, and Unreal, and have you make the same core game system across all three games, or all three game engines. So we're making 3D platformers. Mine has the twist of letting the player fly between the platforms as a bird, and I've been having a lot of fun working on it. I made the first version in Unity, and now we're making it in Godot, and I've been really enjoying Godot. And I've switched most of my other projects that I just started working on into Godot while I'm still at it. I realized when playtesting that original Unity version that I really don't like explaining the controls to my games, even especially on keyboard, but even on standard controllers. It's annoying to point at all the buttons and be like, this one does this one does that, and then you have to remember it all. And obviously if it was a full game, I'd be able to spend more time teaching the players that, but it's hard when I don't have the time to develop this into a full game. So I was thinking of a solution, and I found this controller that just has one joystick and a few buttons, and I thought this could be a simple solution where there's barely any control inputs on here. So even if I don't explain too much, just the trial and error of playing around with the small amount of options will easily tell players everything they need to know. A big challenge to having a small amount of control inputs, especially just one joystick, is what do we do about the player's camera? Most third-person games have a separate joystick that moves the camera, and on keyboard it would be the movement is on the keyboard and the camera's on the mouse. So if we are just getting input from one joystick or just the keyboard, how are we going to move the camera? So that's kind of just what this video is about, is breaking down the different ways I did that. So this game has two very different types of transportation, being walking and flying, and the camera needs to work pretty differently for both of those, so then the game doesn't get too disorienting. So the goals for the grounded camera movement is that the camera moves only when the player is moving from the same input, and then the camera can be forced to align with the player's back using a input. So this is what that looks like in game. You can see I'm walking around and the camera subtly moves as I walk. There's no extra camera input here. That's just responding to me walking. And then I can press a button and the camera will snap to the character's back. This is what the programming for that looks like. You can see if it's locked. Using the locked input, it will snap to the back, and if not, it kind of just slowly tries to get to the back as you move. But if you're not moving, it won't move either. So this is what it looks like input mapped. The camera movement and player movement are both in that main controller, and the jump is with those two buttons. And then these two triggers are the camera lock input. The inputs are mirrored on both sides depending on if you're right or left-handed. I am right-handed, so you can see my left is on the buttons and my right is on the joystick. The joystick is moving the character, and then my left hand is pressing the two buttons to either jump or lock the camera. And you can see how the camera lock works. I just press that trigger and then the camera will zip to the back of the player. The flying movement is a lot simpler. The camera should pretty much always be locked to the player's back, showing what's ahead of the player, and the camera, I want the camera to tilt slightly as the player steers the character to make it seem like you're soaring through the air. this is what it ended up looking like. As you can see, the camera will always point towards the direction you're moving, and it will tilt a bit as you steer the character. And this is the programming for it. It's super simple. The camera pretty much just is always trying to reach the back position, and the Z rotation is adjusted a bit depending on the inputs you're receiving. So if there's no inputs, the Z rotation will be 0, but if there are inputs, it will rotate based on the input. And you can see it in response to the joystick, where every time I move the joystick, the camera angle tilts a bit, and that it is always locked to the direction I'm moving the player. So unfortunately, there were problems with the execution. The first being that players felt disoriented when holding down the camera align button because it was constantly zipping to the back orientation. And then when taking off, it would take off in the direction that the bird is facing instead of the direction that your camera is facing. And most people would look at where they want to go instead of making the bird look where they want to go. So I tried to fix these things. I had to redo some of my programming, but I'm pretty happy with the final result. So this is the new camera alignment, kind of based on, I was playing Twilight Princess on the Wii, which of course is also one joystick, and they did something similar where the camera remembers the position where you first press the align button, it stays there, and then the character's movement depends on the camera's position. And then to make the character face the direction the camera is, I switched it around so you control the camera and then the character faces the camera instead of the other way around. And you can see the before and after of the flying, where before it used to take off based on the direction of the bird, now it takes off on the direction of the camera. Like I said, I just switched it around where you now control the camera with your inputs, and then the character just tries to look at where the camera is pointing. And then this is the camera locking before and after. You can see where before, if you tried moving while the camera was locked, it would just zip around, where now if you try moving when the camera is locked, the camera stays in place. And you can see how I did that here. It wasn't too much to change this one. It was pretty easy. But yeah, that was the video. It was just a short, simple thing. I wanted to show what I was working on because I had a lot of fun working with a unique input system. I had a lot of fun editing this video too. I usually don't do much video editing. I also have a a time-lapse of me modeling all of the assets you saw in this video, so if you are curious about how I made the trim sheets, and the modular kit, I have a time-lapse. Maybe I can pair it with some commentary and post that here too. But overall, this video was like a really fun way to practice making like UI and like 2D stuff in Godot. All of the title cards and stuff you saw were all made in Godot and animated through scripting. So it was very fun to practice and get a hang of the new system there. Yeah, I will hopefully post the Godot version of the game to my itch page at some point, and it already works with both a normal controller and mouse and keyboard. And it still is only one input for movement and such, so it's still a little out of the ordinary, but you can play it without the special controller. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope to keep making videos about some of the fun little experiments I try with game development. So, thank you for watching.